The flat top is one of the most recognizable haircuts in the world. It is an important haircut to learn because the techniques used in this haircut can apply to almost every men's hairstyle. I personally think it's a great looking haircut and can be manipulated into different variations to fit most head shapes. It can also help barbers and hairstylists learn to cut hair by cutting to a shape instead of cutting to a certain length. For most haircuts, I start by cutting the back. But in this haircut, I will start by cutting the sides. It gives me a better idea of the angles I will use for the rest of the haircut. That is just my personal preference. For this cut, I will be starting with a 1.5 blade. If you use plastic guards on your clipper, you can clip a number 1 guard on your clipper and open the side lever to a little over halfway. For more information on metal and plastic clipper lengths, please watch my basic clipper cutting video. As you can see, I'm taking the 1.5 clipper length to where his head begins to curve toward the crown. It is important to follow through on your clipper stroke once you get to the curve of the head. What I mean by follow through is when you get to the point where the blade is no longer pressed against the head, keep the clipper moving up at the same angle. I've noticed that when people cut to a certain spot on the head and immediately pull the clipper away, the hair is more difficult to blend into the top using the clipper over comb technique. If you do not follow through, you may also be likely to follow the curvature of the head too high. That may result in the top of the sides being cut with too great of an angle. I will now cut the other side to match the first side before I move to the back of the head. My next step will be to cut the back. I continue using the 1.5 blade. Unless the guest asks for it to be cut differently, I will use the 1.5 higher in the back than I did on the sides. When cutting the back, I will go all the way up to the cowlick with the 1.5. Once at the cowlick, I will again use the technique of gradually taking my clipper off his head and follow through at nearly the same angle the blade was at when it left his head. Once I make the guideline in the back, I will cut around the top of the back of the head against the grain. While I do this, I hold the clipper blade to match the follow-through's angle. The direction I push the clipper will vary quite a bit to make sure the hair near the cowlick is thoroughly cut. The guideline will be higher in the back and gradually go down to meet the guideline of the sides. I will now cut the bottom of the sides with the number 1. I take the number 1 blade up to a guideline that I've placed near the temples on the sides, and those lines will meet near the occipital bone in the back. To make sure the transition is really clean, I use a rocking technique with the clipper. To make the line completely disappear, I use my 1A blade, again with a slight rocking technique. For more detailed information on this part of the cut, watch my video for cutting from skin to dark hair. In the next step, I will set the hair up to cut the top of the flat top. I've seen many ways of doing this, but in my opinion, nothing beats the heat. Sometimes, if a guest's hair is too matted down, I will start with spraying water on the hair and brushing it against the grain using a stiff, bristled military-style brush. But I always use a blow dryer with a funnel to brush the hair against the grain so it stands up. The blow dryer is the best option because the heat sets the hair back without using any products that can hinder the clipper's ability to cut the hair. That is not opinion, that is a fact. Now that the hair is prepared to cut, I will start by cutting the back of the top. I hold the spine of the comb against the scalp for stability. I position it to nearly match the angle that I had while cutting at the cowlick with the 1.5 blade. The hair on the top of the crown will be just a little bit longer than it was at the cowlick. I will still be cutting from the back to the front. The hair will gradually get longer from the crown to the front. Usually 1 or 2 swipes past the very middle of the head is where I switch positions. I always comb hair away from me while cutting. To cut the front of the flat top, I will cut from the front. I start by cutting the very front to the desired length. In most flat tops I do, the front will be about 1 inch long. I will cut the front pushing back to blend with the previously cut crown area. Once that is finished, I will blow dry the hair again to maintain the heat set and blow away any loose hairs that will obscure my vision. The next step is to blend the sides with the top. One reason why learning a flat top can help you with all your men's cuts is because it will illustrate how to blend the sides of a haircut while cutting from the front or the back. As you cut clipper over comb using the same angle you use while cutting the sides in the first step, the curvature of the head will create the fade of the side for you. This technique can help you in any haircut. When I position the comb, I stabilize the comb against the head. I cut from just above where the comb is stabilized to the top of the flat top. Depending on my position, I may start at the top and go down. I begin this process from the back to the front. Once I've cut from the back to just past the middle of the head, I change my position to cut from the front. Remember, always cut the front from the front. Again, to learn more about this, watch my video on the basics of clipper over comb. Because I have cut the back of the top so short, I can make the angle in the back lean more towards the middle. On almost all of my flat tops, the back corners are tapered into the middle and at least slightly rounded. The angle becomes more straight up and down toward the front of the cut. Usually only about half of the top is actually flat. I keep the back corners so short because if the hair is too long, it is difficult for the average person to style. The cowlicks in the back of the head make the hair grow in different directions. I find the best way to keep that under control on a flat top is to keep it so short that it cannot look messy. After all, this is a precision cut. In some cases, your customer may request the back of the top to be longer. In this instance, you will not want to taper the sides into the middle too much. It will make the head appear too narrow. I call it the A-frame because it makes the top of it look like the outline of an A. The next step is something that requires a little bit more ability to see the hair at proper angles than the other steps. In this step, I will look at the hair from more angles than just the front and the back. I begin by looking at the hair from the four corners of the flat top. To put it simply, I get my eyes at the level of the hair. If anything sticks out, I cut it to make it match the rest of the flat top. This step sounds simple, but should be done very carefully. Cut the rogue hairs down slowly and a little bit at a time. It is very easy to take a swipe too low and ruin the work you've done so far. Once I have seen the cut from the four corners of the flat top, I will cut from the side, using the same principles of cutting anything that is sticking out. This will be the final step in cutting clipper over comb. Now I will finish the edges and taper his neck. I hope you've enjoyed watching my flat top clipper cutting video.